Okay, we can start. What we can cover in the last class, we will cover how we can use the DTO, how we can do the mapping, why we use this mapping profile that we can cover in the last class. And so in the last class, anyone have any doubt? So you can, if you have any doubt, you can message here. Okay. And I will push all the changes here in the Git. Okay. So, and also I will add the notes here. And I also added all the notes that we can do in the last class. Steps to create a CRUD operation with GTO. And I also push these changes here in the Git. So all the changes will be pushed here. So if you want to get this clone, this clone where we can add all the comments and all the implementation detail I can give here. So what you need to do, you need to share this video or this live class in your any social media, for example in LinkedIn. And after that, that LinkedIn where you can share that link, you can share me in this email, and after that I will share you this project clone, and inside this also I added here notes. Here I added all the notes, and also will give you to join the WhatsApp group where you will get all other notes. For example, we are making this one async and await, and these details that notes we can write here. Okay, okay, we can start. So in the last class, all think we are completed. Our next task will be create interface services and controller. So these are the steps we already covered. This also we are covered, and this also we are covered. Next task will be make a interface as services. After that, we need to inject that services in controller, and then we need to register dependency injection in our program.cs. So only these three steps left. These three steps are left. Firstly, we will cover why we use asynchronous or synchronous programming. So here we can use the async and await. Like this is the most important question in .NET interview. Why we use the asynchronous programming? So what it will be do? Let me check. Okay. So, but it will be do we have a two programming. Before that, we are using a synchronous programming. So, I will explain you with the help of simple example, so anyone can easily understand. First one is a programming. So, in which what it will be do? For example, you are getting data from the database. So, you here in our application with .NET application. There are multiple threads. They are working in a multiple threads. So, what it will be do? For example, if you are, I will give you a simple example. For example, you can take thread 1, and with the help of this programming, synchronous programming, you can take a thread 1 and you are getting data. You are getting list of products because our table, any list you are getting list of products. That time what it will be do? What's his spelling is correct? You can check spelling. I if there anything wrong. Okay, but it will do when we can take a thread 1. We are getting a list of products, list of products from the database. That time it it blocks that thread until we are not getting data from the database. So this is the simple example. And what another will do, in the asynchronous programming, we are using a task in the interface. We can make a task. What is the task is for example your job ticket. In you are working like what return type you want. This is the job ticket. It's a simple example. Thread means you are actually doing any work. So this is for example you are working in any ticket. So this is the task. Thread means when we are doing any job, we can work on it. That is called a thread. It's a simple real world example. And next we will explain you asynchronous programming. Here asynchronous programming, we can use async and await. With the help of async and await and task, we can implement asynchronous programming. So but it will be do, for example, it handle multiple tasks efficiently. For example, this one I will copy. Same example I will give here in the asynchronous programming. In the asynchronous programming, for example, same we can use we can use thread 1, start fetching data from the database. Start fetching data from the database. So here we are using a await. So with the help of await and with the help of await, so here we are using a await and async. So with the help of await, what it will do, it will not block that thread 1 in the idle state. So it in this case it will block that thread and in the idle state. So here but we it will not release that thread. You can say simply does not block or or you can say sit there to wait the response. It will goes back to a thread pools and used for the another task where it will use a thread, like we can, when we are fetching data from the database, so we can use the await. With the help of await, this thread one goes back to a thread pool and ready to help to other tasks. Once we are getting data from the database, any available thread, not only the one, any available thread will be give to a to represent the response. So that's why async and is asynchronous programming will be work with the help of async and await. So he will await the response. When we can get the response, he will give the any available thread. Not only for, it's not compulsory we can give the same thread one. So for example, if thread 5 will be available, so it will give the response in the thread 5, thread 4, any. So or sit here to wait the response, it goes back to the thread pool and ready to help other task. And then once the data comes back, any available thread, it might be any like not compulsory to be thread 1. If thread 1 will be free, so it will assign to thread 1, but it not might be only this, might be, you can say thread 3 or 4 or 5, or if only if one also available, so it will also assign. So that thread will be available, it will assign to that thread to the response. Not only thread in, not like not waiting in idle state for a thread one. And same like that way it will be work. So this is the simple example that shows the difference between both, and it's the most important question in .NET interview. Any, like every interview this question will be asked, because in the latest projects, every project we can follow this programming, asynchronous programming. So before that, what it will we do? It will block the thread rather than we are, for example, we are fetching data from the database and we have a one 1000 records, so it will take a time, so that time this thread one will be blocked or in a idle state and waiting for the response. But with asynchronous programming, what it will be do, thread one start fetching data from the database, but rather than waiting in a idle state, he goes back to a thread pool and ready to help other tasks. Once we can get the response, get back the response, so we can pass the response any available thread that are available. So this is the simple example. Okay, anyone have any question related to this? Okay, we can go next. Our next step will be to create an interface and services. This one to create an interface services. After that, we can inject that interface in a controller. I can make a folder here. So this is interface. In the interface, we can just declare the method, not give the definition of that method. So same thing we are doing that we can do in the last class, but for now we are using async and await. So I can show you here. Before that, we are making this project, this one. I think here we can't use async task and async and await. So before implemented anything, you have to idea why we implement these things. So you can see here we can't use any async and await. When we are using async and await, we can put this inside the task. These things, like what response we are getting. So we can put this inside the task. We are using task here. Okay, okay, this one we are making. So here we can make the this interface. I also add here in the interface. We will define the method signature in the interface. We just declare the method and we can do implementation in service class. So here we can only write the interfacing. With the help of interface, we can achieve a abstraction. So in the controller, we can use I product interface and all the implementation we can hide. And we also achieve a dependency injection with the help of interface. So if you are not using interface, we need to write all the code in same controller. But with the help of this interface, we can easily implement our dependency injection. So we don't write all the code in same controller. We can call from the outside. You can see here we can't write any logic here. We just command here. We are calling this method. That's implementation we can do inside the service. So here we can do all the implementation and our definition will be here. So these method we are calling from the controller, so that like that way we can achieve the abstraction because we are hiding the internal details. So internal details, for example, we are fetching data, updating all the things we are doing here, and in controller we just inject this interface. So you can see here in the privately we can just use these method that we are using, and we can pass things in the parameter that it will want. So here it will want id, here it will be want product model, so we can pass here same id. Here it does not want anything, so we can just call this method. So you can see here in the controller we can just inject this here with the help of dependency injection and variable iProductService.getAll. So this is also called a command and query architecture because here we can give the command, our query will be right here inside the services. Okay. Okay. We can firstly we will make the method for a get all. We want to get all the products from the database. Get all products from the database. Next one is here we can use the I enumerable. So this is also important question why we use the I enumerable. Yeah. So in INumerable is used when we want to fetch all the record from the database, because what it will be do, it will first fetch all the record, after that it will be filter the record. And another one is sometime it will be an important question in data interview: what is the difference between INumerable and iQueryable? So in iQueryable, for example, in INumerable, if you want only first 10 record and 10 records, but in your database have 100 records, it will be firstly fetch the 100 records, after that filter the 10 record. But with the help of iQueryable, you can fetch only 10 record if you want. So for example, here we want all the record, that's why we can simply write here IEnumerable. Next we can make for get by single ID. Ask get by ID. Here we don't need to write get all product, because here we already define this is for the product service. And we also covered here open clause principle, that is a part of solid principle. Open clause principle means this interface is open for extension but closed for modification. So this part means any class or interface should be open for extension but closed for modification. Yes. So here we will cover, I think, three important question. First one is most important question, interface. Second one is we can achieve abstraction with the help of interface. We can achieve dependency, implement dependency injection with the help of interface. And here we also use open close principle. And another one is interface aggregation principle, that we will cover in the next class. I will explain you with the help of examples so you have a better idea. And also in the class we already covered single responsibility principle. A class should have only the single responsibility and single reason to change. Class should have only single responsibility and single reason to change. So this is the simple definition. It means a product has only the single responsibility. Here we can only add the things that are related to product table, and if we want to extend anything new field we want to add, that will be related to a product. We don't add here things that are related to another table, for example product or user. So if we want related product and user, we can make a separate table. So here we can add things that are related to this table. So this is the first principle, single responsibility principle. And the second will be a open clause principle, that we can write here. This one means this interface open for extension and close for modification. It means we can extend anything, but we can't change the previous method via implementation. We can do and inject it in the controller. You can see here it means if we want a new method here, yeah, here we want, if we want a new method, so we can here create, for example we are we can want a get product by I product by name, so we can make a new method rather than changing here. So when we can changing here, multiple will be giving a error because its implementation we can do in the service and also use in the controller. So we need to change multiple times. So that's why this is the second principle. If you want a new thing, you can simply extend the method, not changing the previous method. Okay, add a product by ID. So you can see here we are using a task represent the asynchronous operation that can return a value, and the result we are returning this product response. So that time we are using async and asynchronous programming, we can use the task async and await. Task. So here this one will be used, we can get data from the database. Sorry, we can get the data, we can write the data in the Swagger UI and pass to our response DTO. Next one is for the update. So here we can write simply pass response DTO update, because in our product request update you already have ID, so we can simply write here. Next one is we can make for delayed. For example, here is what return type we want to keep. So in the delayed, I can take a return type bool. It means if that record will be deleted, that time we can get it true. If not, that record, that time you will get a false. Okay. So anyone have any question? We'll cover later in which we can simply, I already will cover later when we can do any implementation related to a list of substitution. For now, we are not doing any implementation related to this. So in list scope substitution principle means, for example, we'll explain you in later class. For example, you can make the base class, and in the base class you can added the things that are used in the another model. For example, this is the ID will be commonly used. Every table will have one ID. For example, you want to the uh, created by all the details you can save here in the base class, and you can insert it here. That time we can use the list of substitution principle, but we will cover in the next incoming class. I will explain you in the details. Next one is I will make a product service. So here we can inherit our interface with the help of inheritance. And we can inject it here privately our db context file. And then we can make the method for get all product firstly. So firstly in this class I will firstly explain you how we can do a manual mapping, and in the next class we can like next we can make a onion architecture where we can use same thing. Here we need to inject the mapper. So with the help of mapper we can do, but for now we can do here manual mapping. So first thing is you need to add here async and await. So to using async and await, we need to write here everywhere async. So in the every method we need to write here. And when we can await, we are using await only when we are fetching data in the database or doing any data related work. So this is the task and this is the asynchronous. This keyword we need to write here. So before that, we are using like that way. We are using simply to list. But after when you are using here async and await, we are using to list async, find async, add async, save changes async, first or default async. So these all are provided by AF core. So here we don't. If I write here find async, so it will give the error because in the above we are not assigning. So we need to use this for now. And here we need to use to list async, this one. So this is the difference between both. Okay, firstly we will here this is for the get all product from the database. So we can simply return. So here we can use await because we are fetching list from the database. Yeah. So here what we can use to list async with the help of anti-framework core, we can get this. This is provided by AF core that we can install. So what we can do here, we can use a await context.products, and this is our response. This is our return type. So we can return these three value that we want to return. Next one is we can make get by ID. So firstly we will find that record with the help of ID variable product wait async context dot product dot find async with the help of find, or you can use a first or default, it's your choice. For now we are using find async, and if that product will be null, that time we can return a null, otherwise we can return this DTO that we can make here, product response DTO. So if product is equal to null, that time we can return the null, otherwise we will return this response that we want here. And you can see here again we are using a await because here same thing we are fetching data from the database. Next thing is we can make for the add. Okay, add. Okay, so now it will be revert. We are getting data from here, and we need to firstly convert to our database. In our database, database table will be a product. So here we are doing a manual mapping. So new, our table will be a product and name and description that we are saying. So in the request body, we can get name and description. After that, we can save these changes. We can add these changes, and after that, we can run save changes in. So when we are doing anything that are related to updating in the database, getting data in the database, that time we are using the await. You can see here we can't use await. Next thing is we can add the changes. Firstly, await context dot products dot add a sync, and we can pass this, and after that we can run save changes sync. And in the next, when all the changes will be saved in the database, we need to return all the data in product response DTO. So we can simply return new. So like that way it will be work. Next we can make for a update. So we can firstly find that record with the help of ID, and if we get that that record will not null, after that we can update and save changes sync and return this DTO variable product. If that product will be null, that time we can write product dot name product request dot IDs, because IDs we don't need to pass here ID, we can only pass name and description, and after that we can do a save changes sync, and after that we can return this DTO. We can return this DTO, and I think now only one left. Delete. If that product is equal to null, that time we can return the false, otherwise we can remove that, and after that we can save changes in and return true, because here we can take the return type rule. Next thing will be a controller. We will make the controller, and we can inject our interface here, and after that we can inject the dependency injection in program.cs file. So here same thing we are doing here. We can inject our product service. We can make the constructor. Inside this we can implement the dependency injection. Okay, next thing we can do the tomorrow. This is done for today class. Thanks for watching. So method need use because with the help of await we can wait that method. For example, here, so it will take some time or second, you can say we are fetching data from the database. So that time we can use the await. So it will await, not blocking that thread. So that time it will await. That thread will be a not idle state. It will be released and goes back to a thread tools. Once we are getting response from here, so it will block or not in the idle state. It will goes back to the thread pool and work for the another task. And so these all things will be done with the help of async and await and used for the other tasks. And when we can get the response, then we can give any available thread.